Well, this week marked 30 years since legendary grunge artist Kurt Cobain died. One of the best ways to see Cobain's legacy is to visit the exhibit at MoPOP titled Nirvana, Taking Punk to the Masses. Fox 13's John Hopperstedt got a look at the exhibit.
Well, Jacob, tell me, what kind of experience do people get when they come in here and check out this exhibit?
Well, we're really trying to create the story of Nirvana, but couching it within what was happening in the Pacific Northwest and really kind of the wider world from the rise of hardcore punk rock on. So like a big context to thing that's, Nirvana wasn't, the only band that was happening. It wasn't happening in a vacuum. Nirvana was the right band at the right place, that was standing on the shoulders of dozens of other bands that had, made efforts into the mainstream over time. So really trying to give that wide context.
What are some of the favorite items that you have here? I mean, I'm seeing some iconic stuff just right here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're looking at one of the stage angels from the In Utero tour. There were 2 of those. They received lots of abuse over the length of the tour. You can kind of see that in there. Got some saran wrap keeping the guts of the angel in. But yeah, I mean, it really is the largest collection of Nirvana memorabilia in one place in the world. And, tracing that history back to before there was a Nirvana through the band's 7-year history, and that idea of, these kids that didn't have a lot of opportunity, but with a lot of talent and luck and ambition, they became the biggest band in the world.
Yeah, and they really changed music at the time, too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one can argue that, the rise of grunge and alternative rock is probably the last true innovation in rock and roll that has happened. That everything since then has kind of been a rehash of things.
What do you think the enduring legacy is of Nirvana, but also of Kurt Cobain?
I think Nirvana was an interesting combination. Kurt was an amazing songwriter, classic kind of pop melodies, but with this sort of punk package wrapped around it. His lyrics were really nebulous, and you could imbue them with anything. I do think that, that strange process when somebody dies, young at the height of their power and popularity, they're frozen in time. They've never, Kurt will never put out a bad record. He always is going to speak to a certain generation and certain, age of kids, coming up. And I think we're seeing that year over year that's continuing to happen. I mean, we're 30 years on now, and, Nirvana is as popular or more than ever.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because my kids kind of discovered Kurt and Nirvana on their own. So are you seeing, the next generation after generation rediscovering their music and then coming to the exhibit?
I think so. I mean, I think, Nirvana and Kurt Cobain reside in that place that is similar to what, Elvis or the Beatles meant for, generations past. And I think that, that will continue over the next, several decades at least.
Some people that walk through that door may just think they're going to see a couple guitars, maybe one of his famous sweaters. So what's the reaction when people come through and see all that you have here? I
mean, you definitely get a sense of that people are coming as a pilgrimage almost. I mean, we only planned to have this exhibit open for about 1.5 years when we launched in 2011, and it's been up for 13 years. And it's something where fascinating for me to come into the gallery and see those people that are, really palpably feeling like they're close to their, their idol or their, this band that meant so much to them. So it's really gratifying. And for me, it's like I really wanted to tell this sort of humanistic story. I think that Cobain story is a lot of, tragic elements of it, but I think it's also a very aspirational story of this idea that, these guys, for just a brief time became the biggest band in the world.
They did, and there was a lot of fun with these guys too, right? We see it in the t-shirts and the posters, and what I love too is you've literally got the first guitar that Kurt ever broke on stage, right?
Absolutely.
And that's not the only one here.
Yeah, lots of broken guitars. But yeah, I mean, Kurt, smashed that guitar in Halloween of 1988 at the Evergreen State College in a dorm, complex, and maybe 50 people in the audience, and it was his, only guitar at the time. I mean, he could hardly pay rent, much less, buy another guitar, but for whatever reason, he decided to smash that, and what I love about it is that somebody in the audience was so psyched about this tiny little band that not a lot of people knew at the time, and they kept that guitar for 15 years before we acquired it. So that connection between the band and the fans, you know, is really meaningful.
And you mentioned the idea was not to have this be some kind of permanent exhibit at MoPOP, right? But do you foresee that something around Nirvana and Kurt Cobain is always going to be a part of this place?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I don't know that we could have a museum dedicated to music and pop culture in Seattle and not have something related to Nirvana, to grunge, to that, you know, that period of time in Seattle where, you know, the media all around the world suddenly looked to Seattle about what was coming next.
Yeah. Well, it's a great exhibit. Everybody should come down to MoPOP and check it out. Jacob, thanks so much for being here.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, you heard it right there. That exhibit was never planned to be permanent, but it is so popular that they're not planning to take it out of MoPOP anytime soon. For all things related to Kurt Cobain and Nirvana's legacy, you can head to fox13seattle.com.